Greetings in the love and light of the one infinite creator. I'm Andrii, and I'm here today with Dan, Adam, Fred, and Ed, and we will be reading the November 8th, 2024 session of the LL Research Channeling, which is about processing catalyst of a presidential election, serving others who may be in fear, anger, or despair, and exploring the use of purpose of fear, interpreting the Confederation of material. It is, I guess, worthy of note that many of the people in the core LL Research Channeling group are of a left-wing bias, and so they were perturbed by the Trump election, and so that gives us the context for this particular session. All right, take it away, Dan.
I am Quo, and we greet this circle in the love and in the light and in the peace of the one infinite creator. We are joyed and grateful to be called to your circle of seeking on this evening, and we are honored to serve in the position in which you call us to. We discover within the circle this evening a whirlwind of energies, both difficult and joyous, the lightness of friendship and humor mixed with the feelings of turbulence and difficulty as you, as seekers, contend with the circumstances of the world around you. We encourage you to kindle that flame of lightness as you come together to grapple with and process the catalyst offered to you by the world around you. It is our privilege to be able to join you in this process, and our hope that we may serve as a light in the turbulent darkness for you by offering our perspective removed from the veiled nature of third density, allowing us to see the hand of the one infinite creator at play at play in all circumstances that manifest about you. We have traveled this journey as well, and wish to only offer our perspective in hopes that it can serve you upon your own journey and be the light in the darkness for you through difficult times and through joyous times. And as such, we would ask of you our typical request that you understand that this perspective that we share is not intended to be authoritative or imposed upon you from on high, you may say, but rather that we meet you as fellow travelers along the path, simply sharing our own experience of that journey for you to relate to on whatever terms suit you upon your journey. We do not wish to serve in any way as a stumbling block or as a barrier between you and the truth that you seek. And so we would ask that if there are any thoughts or perspectives shared by us that hinder you, that do not serve to empower you, or that cause you difficulty, that you cast these aside and only take those that can benefit you on your own journey. Take only those things that can be used to serve you, and pay no more mind to those things that do not serve you upon your own journey. By granting us this favor, you allow us to speak more freely and offer our thoughts in deeper and more meaningful ways with the comfort of knowing that we will not be misunderstood as the ultimate authority in uh, what is best for you on your journey. We thank you for considering this request, and at this time would ask if there is a particular query to which we may respond.
Yes, thank you, Kuo. Where was it? The first question: what are the lessons that are available for us as American citizens in the wake of the recent presidential election?
I am Quo, and I'm aware of the query, my sister. We would make some extra effort with this instrument to deepen his state and allow himself to orient to his own biases and thoughts and opinions in a way that might allow us to speak in a meaningful way outside of those biases. We pause to allow this deepening. I am Quo, and we thank you and this instrument for this consideration, which we find to be somewhat necessary as the topic raised within the query is a very pervasive backdrop for each person within the nation that you identify as America and as American citizens. We certainly perceive the timeliness of this query For the energies available to our perception in the realm of time/space have made quite apparent the energized atmosphere, not just within your portion of the planet, but all around the planet, as there is a reconfiguration of power, as it were, and reactions to this, whether they be a rejection or fear or celebration of this rearrangement. The disparity and mixture of the reactions and the strength of these reactions make for a very interesting panoply of energies and vibrations. From our perspective, there is a certain chaos amidst this reconfiguration and this expression for you, not just as a nation but as a planet, do form a group soul as an unrealized and unexpressed social memory complex, and it is unusual from our perspective to see such a disparity within a single social memory complex. And this is where we would draw your attention in addressing this topic, that there is a shared mind, even a shared heart among all beings within the boundaries of your borders and beyond them as well. For the purpose of this response, we would focus, as you have, on the query that the nation in which you live, what you call the United States, is a particular focus at this moment in time. And so we would emphasize to you that there is an even more specific shared mind, shared soul among all peoples within this nation, all those who carry an identity and a care and a desire to be a part of what you call the United States of America, to care for this entity that you call a country in one way or another, whether one feels that there are many changes that need to be made, or whether one is proud or ashamed. All entities relate to this larger entity in different ways, and so you find yourself under its banner, with many other individuals sharing this identity in one way or another. And this identity forms itself as an entity that can be seen as unique and individual on its own. In other words, there is, from our perspective, an entity called the United States of America in time/space that is experiencing a deep degree of inner turmoil and difficulty. If you have ever if you have ever yourself felt internally conflicted or have served an other self experiencing conflict within the self, you might be able to relate to this entity and understand what it is going through. If you consider the thoughts and actions and behaviors that you express or your other selves express as you are going through a period of internal disharmony and confusion, you might recognize that sometimes you will behave in ways that do not match your heart, that sometimes the confusion you experience within manifests in difficult and troubling ways, and that inner turbulence becomes very apparent on the outside. And we believe that this perception, this outer turbulence, is what is most apparent to you, but what is hidden from your perspective as veiled creatures within the third density is this inner turbulence that, if you are able to find your own place of silence and peace and access your own inner guidance and inner perception, you might be able to somewhat perceive this entity that is experiencing such trouble and such difficulty. For even if events and circumstances align with your own joy, you will surely recognize that not all about you are similarly aligned. And taking a closer look, you might find that there is a common heart among the peoples within your nation, that even though there is an extreme polarization of joy and of sorrow, of hope and of fear, that these things manifest amongst the backdrop of a shared heart and a shared mind, and it is simply an expression of this troubled entity attempting to reconcile itself through you as aspects of this oversoul of America. In sharing this perspective of a troubled entity with inner turmoil and inner confusion, we hope that you can garner some empathy for such an entity. Understanding that there is such inner turmoil will orient your hearts towards care and empathy for what this entity is going through, no matter where you fall within the circumstances of that entity. Imagining such a soul troubled with inner turmoil, this empathy and care can serve as a basis from which you can now reckon with the circumstances about you. Though you may have many varied reactions to the circumstances of your political arenas, your cultural arenas, and your other various social expressions as a culture, reckoning with those things that trouble you, that create
Thank you for
anxiety.
calling the Guidehouse IT Service Desk. My name is Adam. Can I have you please spell your first and your last name for me, please?
Okay. Uh, thanks. Um, all right. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Dan. Where,
Um,
where were you?
I can just start from that.
Okay, okay. Hmm.
Though you may have varied reactions to the circumstances of your political arenas, your cultural arenas, and your other various social expressions as a culture, reckoning with those things that trouble you, that create anxiety with you amongst the backdrop of a strong desire to heal that entity, to bring unity within the self of this oversoul, this perspective is essential. For if it is not garnered as you attempt to address the disparity that you witness about you and correct what you believe to be the less beneficial choices, the potential for harm, the potential for suffering, to do this without resting in the heart of care and empathy and compassion will only further divide and create separation. And so we speak more directly to what we perceive to be your query, and that as you find yourself pulled in many directions by your outer circumstances, always attempt to bring yourself back to that perception, to zoom out your your perspective, if you will, and not view the individual in front of you that is causing confusion or turmoil, or the groups that you perceive as being sources of these difficulties, but instead view the unified entity that is experiencing this inner turmoil and the care that you might feel for it, the deep love and desire for healing that you have for it, and resting in that deep care, return to that more immediate, direct, and smaller perspective and question in that moment and ask, how can I serve that large entity? What would be the best action to be in order for me to bring that healing and that harmony? This will vary depending on your circumstances and your other selves. So, but so long as you can continually touch that heart of desire to heal and allow to inform whatever actions and words are discovered in that moment, then the opportunity for your other selves to witness this larger entity and to discover within themselves that they also have that care and empathy becomes ever more possible. The difficulties amongst your peoples can become more easy to grapple when there are more of your citizens radiating from this perspective. Those topics and political touch points that cause conflict can be addressed on a more essential level with a shared goal of healing rather than individual goal of winning. This will not be an easy process, and we do not guarantee that within your life you will find the outer circumstance of peace that you are hoping to manifest from this activity. For it is you that must discover the peace within yourself that, that can then be manifested outside of you. We commend you to this very difficult task as we understand that the turbulence of your current circumstances can be quite troubling and disconcerting. This is the nature of third density. It is a circumstance only possible within the veiled conditions of third density, and we hope to offer you a perspective in which this is but a part of a process. This unfolds upon a stage of the creation that is ultimately a manifestation of the one infinite creator and its love and its light, and that it will play out and that the love and the light of the creator will become apparent at some point on this journey. It is available to you now for you to access within the self and to shine within your troubled world, but eventually it will be apparent and obvious to all and your country and your planet will find healing and unity on this grand journey through the creation back to the one infinite creator. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister?
Apparently there is, but we're gonna stop and review that for now. So what do you guys think, especially the Americans here, of that answer?
Can I say something real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
I think this is kind of like it gives me the vibe of remember the cat session in the Raw channeling, where
Okay, yeah.
they spent the whole session talking about the cat and the problems with the cat and taking the cat to the vet and blah 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 the cat.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to say how that was, and in some capacity it is. It's a waste of energy going over and over and over something that's basically 3D. Well, that does two things. And if anybody's ever watched a TV show where they watch all the episodes, or a movie, watched it all the way through and it was a good movie, or a sitcom or anything, there's always those episodes or those moments where, kind of like, you ever watch Breaking Bad and you ever remember seeing the Fly episode where the two of them were in a lab and the whole episode was them trying to hunt down this fly and kill it. Okay. What that does for like a TV show, but it also does that here. In any story, when you hyper focus on something trivial, you are making a comparative analysis between two characters that are predominant in that show. It has nothing to do with the fly. It had nothing to do with the cat in the Raw channeling. It was the interactions between the people in the show that it caused you to see characteristics come out. You're getting to maybe learn who the person is in a 3D way more than you would just by listening to the questions that they're asking. So the other thing that this does in this instance, it points to a serious distortion in not only in our country, but since I've seen this so much get talked about recently, it's a serious problem in our spiritual communities.
Oh, what is
this would not be discussed in the depth this much, was not discussed that much 4 years ago as it is now. It was maybe initially, but it's really been dragging on. And I mean, I think in some instances it's actually escalating the discussion of it. So I think it points to a lot of distortion where people really, really, really are not getting. They're saying it, but they're not getting the all is well mindset. They're not getting it. They might hear it. They might even say it. They might even write it in their books. But when you see constant bombardment and beating a dead horse out of questions where no matter what you ask, all they're going to tell you is to love the people around you, be forgiving, be kind, and all is well. That's all they basically said there. That whole everything comes down to that.
Yes.
So it's coming back to it over and over and over and over and over again, like a catalyst that doesn't want to go away. So what that tells me is the catalyst that they're asking about isn't the catalyst.
Okay,
that's pretty much all I have to say.
I'd also like Bill. Bill, I think you had a great answer in the chat. Could you share that with the world? Bill B.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of going with on the same line Fred said, but Crow's answer wasn't helpful. It's just like I said, it's just like you're in third density with lots of disunity all over the world, people going in all different directions. Get over it and go into unity if you can yourself. It's like, what else is new? But what else are they going to say? It's like, oh, you guys are being run by a bunch of criminals, and you don't want to hold the criminals accountable, so you're just being more manipulated by the criminals that are running your planet and becoming more and more disunified, and just hang in there. One of these days you'll learn about the creator and come into unity.
Yeah. Well, they certainly didn't call anyone a criminal, but
they won't. They won't. They'll either say they're in service to self or whatever. They won't call out what's going on here, because I think in their view that interferes with our free will.
Mm-hmm.
They won't call a spade. They're neutral.
I'll review and see if ChatGPT managed to find any gems in there. Here it says, United States entity experiencing deep inner turmoil and difficulty. And remember, this is November 8th. This is when the hard leftists were shaving their hair and crying and screaming and things like this. So empathy of the larger entity. Imagining such a soul troubled with inner turmoil, the empathy and care can serve as a basis for which you can reckon with the circumstances about you. Zoom out your perspective, view the unified entity, and the care you might feel for it. Resting in that deep care, return to the more immediate, direct and smaller perspective. How can I serve that larger entity? And then discover the peace within yourself that can then be manifested outside of you. Without resting in the heart of care and empathy, the potential for harm or suffering can further divide and create separation. The love and the light of the creator will become apparent at some point on this journey. So basically what I'm seeing here is they're saying kind of zoom out and see America or whichever entity you want, and send love and light at it, and like help it re-achieve unity. And I mean, we have, since that point, I don't think that people are going around shaving their heads and trying to move to Canada and other silly stuff like that. They've done that already if they needed to.
I would laugh hysterically if they all moved to Canada and then Trump struck up a deal with Trudeau to purchase Canada.
Yeah, that's what it looks like is happening right now.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, there's nothing we can do about it. We don't have a military. So
quick question though, because I know Australia is a protectorate of Great Britain. Canada is its own country, right? It's not just a protectorate of Great Britain, right?
Yeah, it's a Commonwealth. Well, it's part of the Commonwealth of Nations, includes Australia and Britain and Canada.
Okay. Okay. You guys have Queen Elizabeth on your quarters, so
well, it's King Charles now. But yes. I actually got a new loonie recently, and it had King Charles on it, a 2023 loonie.
I haven't seen the new ones.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
So I mean, technically, if we struck a deal with Great Britain and Canada, it could be purchased, kind of like we did Alaska.
Yes, but yeah, you'd have to make the deal with King Charles, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, because actually Trudeau doesn't have the ability to negotiate something like that, because the head of state is King Charles. So yeah. Anyhow, so let's move on to the second.
Okay, so one bit I had to say
Ed,
about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Quick.
Oh, because you're part of Britain.
He did say in there, that doesn't matter how much you want to manifest it, peace isn't going to happen in our lifetimes. Buckle up, it's going to get worse. Did kind of hint that, didn't it?
Did it? I don't know. I don't know if it said that peace won't happen in our lifetime. But he said find your inner peace and then use that peace.
But it did, because then he said about finding inner peace, which weirdly is exactly what the hidden hand says.
This is to go off.
We can't win. We can't fight. We can't win the battles. We can't stop the war. We can't do nothing. But we can find peace in ourselves, and we can transcend above all of it. That's the game plan. That's the plan. Yeah. It's not a winnable battle. We have to fight the war in ourselves, not out there.
And plus, also, if everyone did that, there wouldn't be anybody that would fight wars.
Yes,
100%.
it's true. And then, it's also, even if like the whole world, sure, might not go be at peace within our lifetimes, but you can still find a community that's peaceful. Like, look at the Anabaptists. They've managed to live in peaceful communities for centuries, even though the world's been like constantly at war for that whole time. And yet they have these wonderful, peaceful lives. Like I went to Christmas Eve service with like my Bible study groups. It was great, and then there was a school play, and it's just
Isn't
so great.
the Commonwealth
it's so peaceful.
awesome?
Yeah.
I have a pretty basic question.
Go ahead, Dan.
Can you remind me the basics of Law of One again when it comes to harvesting? Because like I'm thinking like, why do I have to worry so much about some other people and their polarities? Why can't I just worry about myself and being harvested? Is it because the planet also has to have reached a certain amount of people to be harvested before you can go to fourth density?
No, basically
apparently that's supposed to have already happened in 2012. Basically, we're supposed to be on the 4D positive Earth.
That's right.
Apparently,
the Earth has already ascended.
Yeah, we've just got to catch up as a species.
Right. So exactly, as a species, we're still playing catch up. So the only thing that's for you to be harvested, you need to balance your lower 4 chakras. So you have to have faith that all is well, all will be well. Recognize the divide within yourself and your one-on-one relationships and your group relationships and all beings. And then you're good to go.
Hi, Adam.
It's easier to say than to do.
So then if I'm good, right? If I'm good to get harvested, then I guess if I sound selfish right now if I say this, but then it doesn't matter about other people around me that their journey. I had to work on my own journey.
Yes,
and that's fine because that also counts to the law of numbers.
Just remember that your journey, has to be of service to other.
Yeah.
The whole point of discovering in you should be so you can shine that light out to others.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, the way I see it is we've found this material now, right at this point of awakening, so we can shepherd people up the mountain, so we can guide people to the high plane.
Well, like Adam was saying, I think what Adam was saying, you have to love yourself first, right?
Well, you have to
love yourself first enough to balance the lower 3 chakras in order to live in your heart, and that takes 49% of your life.
Well,
I think that's where I'm at.
But basically, not necessarily. The service to others, you need to achieve at least 51% service to others. Now, you do
through physical actions. That's not just intention.
So the only chakra that is just you is the red. Is actually the base chakra, because the orange chakra is one-on-one relationships. So that's the relationships between you and another person when it's just the two of you. It can also be related to just yourself, but like say for instance yellow, right? You can't do that unless there's at least 2 people you're communicating with, because that's based on group relationships and like or power dynamics or whatever. And you in order to
I disagree there, dude. Because I feel that
if you've ever tripped alone,
it comes down to
felt
the densities themselves represented in the chakras, right? So the red density, as it were, is just energy. It's just the actual elemental forces, combining together to make matter, to make the universe, to make everything. Prana.
But you got to balance the primary elements before you balance the secondary ones.
You dude?
You got to balance the primary elements in the chakra system before you can balance the secondary ones.
But this is what I mean. So that raw prana is the energy that you're made from. In every single part of you is that red glowing energy. Yeah, but then orange ray is each individual cell. They are conscious. Each one of your cells is an individual living thing. Yeah, them working together as a community, as one, like one unified, like social memory complex, is what makes the second density body that you're in. But now, third density, the ego or interactions with others, as you described, that comes down to the nervous system inside that monitors and connects, and the mind, body, spirit
The
part, right?
parasympathetic nervous system.
Well, central nervous system. Either way, the point is that it's the bit that's inside the millions of little things that orders them or organizes them into you as a you. Right, but then you're not just a you, are you? The next step up is realizing that you're a creator, right? That we're all one. Right, that's heart chakra. That's where we need to get to.
The heart chakra
that's
is
the goal
one of
line.
the primary elements.
The
It's
heart
the
chakra.
element of air.
Well, I don't know about the elements, but the heart chakra is about unconditional love. It's about cultivating
exactly.
forgiveness
The
and
heart chakra
unconditional
is
love.
magnetic.
For every single thing in the universe, for everything, because you understand that it's all creator and it's all you. So there should be nothing but love.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how bad it is, doesn't matter how good it is, doesn't
It's
matter.
not necessarily love.
Yes.
It's like
Love
a
it all.
balanced love.
Well, it is unconditional love. So it is a love that does not require return.
That's it.
So
This
loving
it's not
people,
Venus
even
love.
if they
This
hate
is sun
you,
love. This is heart chakra.
know.
It's not that like ego choice chakra, the one beneath.
Yeah.
You look at the Hermetic tree. You've got like Mercury and Venus, right? Yeah, the Venus is the one that's the love to love between humans. Yeah, that's the one you need to balance for love, right? But the sun, the next step up, that's the heart chakra, and that's the one that is just universal love for all of creation. It's the logos.
Yes, all of
it's
creation.
the direct step down
Even your
to give us
enemies.
the pattern that makes God, that makes everything, that makes us.
Yeah.
Right.
Even
So
people actively
when it
harming
comes to opening that central point, the way I think about it is like a magnet. Yeah, you got a magnet, right? So a magnet, you've got forces coming out the bottom, they meet in the middle, and they bounce off each other, and that's what gives you the toroidal field, right? So that point in the center has got no force on it. You can get a magnet, you can try sticking it to the center of a magnet, it won't stick there. Yeah, there's absolutely no up or down, right? It'll flick to one of the poles. Right now, if you think about your body the same as that, this is the North Pole, the root chakra is the South Pole, and the heart chakra is the middle, where there's no force, where there's nothing fighting against either way. Yeah, it's that perfect point of 0 point energy right in the center of the system. Right, so then, really, once you've got that activated, that's the thing that then fuels and starts the whole step up to the next one. Like I really like the way Saint Germain describes it. He talks about like once you get the whole system going properly, then you can kind of shift down. So you've got other chakras further up, and you can kind of slide them down. So then you can move your heart chakra to where your root chakra is, and then your entire body is just made of love rather than prana. And that would be the body that you'd have in fourth density, right? It would feel as real as this or whatever else, but it wouldn't be made of prana and universal material energy. It's made out of pure love, like from your heart chakra, fueling the entity you are.
Well,
man.
we don't know exactly the physical mechanics of fourth density at this point.
But you have to think about the way I've grown to understand it is, you think about a cube, the difference between this and fourth density is a cube and a tesseract.
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% certain because there's kind of conflicting information in the Confederation material.
I don't know. See, I think that Ra's pretty clear about how it's all geometries across the board. When you look at densities, they're not dimensions.
It's a scale.
Exactly. They're not dimensions, so it's not a tesseract.
But that's what I'm saying. No. But in fourth density,
we know that
yeah,
only the lower 3 dimensions are able to form shapes or able to form knots. And so we still would live in a kind of a 3-dimensional world, but it would be fourth density because there's no veil. And
I don't know. From loads of stuff I've read, it comes down to this ability that we've actually mastered the ability to control reality with thought. So we can manifest at will. We can create
Yes, but that would be
circumstances.
later in fourth
but in
density,
a
not early fourth
non-solipsistic, in a group. That's why
It's-
social memory important.
it's I see it as more of a gradual transition. Like in
Of
fifth
course,
density,
of course, definitely.
fifth
Yes.
density, you are able to dematerialize and change into any shape you want.
Mm.
So third density, so second density, you are like an animal. Third density, you are a higher animal that's able to make choices. Okay, so fourth density is that transition between going from a higher animal that can make choices to a being that can transform its body at will into any shape.
Or realistically, just doesn't need the body to support that energetic form.
Well, it's still like the Confederation is very clear that you still have a body. It's just a different kind of body. Like, for instance, that's why Jesus, he was a very high fourth density, and he was very, very close to fifth density. And so he was able to walk on water and do other miraculous stuff because he was very close to that whole transfiguration place. And he even transfigured here on Earth. And I think that the whole thing, where he was on the cross, he wanted to transfigure in that moment and to turn into a light being. But the thing is, he had metal spikes in his wrists and his feet that prevent that from happening. Because if you have metal on you, you cannot transfigure. He was not aware of that. And then that's when he said, God, why have you forsaken me? Because he tried the transfiguration. The transfiguration had worked like a few days prior. And he was like, what happened, God? But then they took out the spikes and then took him to the cavern or whatever, and then he was able to transfigure his body because there was no steel or metal touching his body, so it didn't conduct the energy away. And actually, in later times, like when they were trying to kill saints and things like that, when they tried to kill John the Baptist, they threw him. Oh, sorry, not John the Baptist, John the Apostle. They threw him in a boiling pot of hot oil. He was not injured, and then they let him go. But later on, like there were other guys, and they tried burning them at the stake, and that didn't work. And they tried like other things. The only thing that would work against them was steel. So they just like would cut off their heads. And they're like, you can't kill a Christian through fire or water. A devout Jesus disciple. Or wild animals, but you can kill them with steel. And so they would just use it with steel, kill them with steel. All right. Anyhow, back to this. So yes, to that end, how can we protect? Oh, hold on a second. There was the follow-up question. Yes, thank you. The first question. Wait, that was was this the follow-up? Particular query. Okay. Rake of the presidential election. And okay, follow-up. Yes, to that end, how can we protect and tend to the inner peace while bearing witness to others' fear, anger, or despair?
I am Quo, and am aware of the query, my sister. We would reiterate, as we frequently do, the ever important foundational practice, the prerequisite, if you will, of a regular meditation practice. For the inner peace that you refer to is one that can only be cultivated intentionally and within the self, and thus you must discover within your life the space and the time and the capability to turn your perspective inward and to discover that peace and silence within. We understand that in a world that is not only busy, but now can carry a difficult vibration to contend with, where there are many contentious energies and even opportunities for service created by those energies, it can be difficult within this circumstance to find the time and to the capability to turn inside. But we must emphasize that more than any other practice, on a daily basis, no matter the time, no matter how much time you have to give, that to sit down and to turn inward and to seek the peace within yourself, discovered within the silence of the self, is more important in such circumstances than in any other kind of circumstance. And once such a practice is developed and maintained, To continue, it builds a sort of sanctum within the self. If you view this sanctum as an inner room, a place of peace, then the continual returning to this place allows you to fortify its foundation, to strengthen its walls, to shine and clean its windows, to sanctify and to make it a truly holy place where, as you continue to return the peace that you find there, it becomes more and more an essence of your being. This room within the self will seem not so far away and will be more easily accessible. The path to that peace becomes more and more available to you, no matter your outer circumstances. And so, after developing such a practice, we recommend further implementing the practice of prayer, particularly when viewing the circumstances outside of you and your other selves. For the seeker on the path of service to others, the appropriate response to such circumstances is to serve, but you will always find yourself alone again and needing to process and grapple with those circumstances. And we would offer to you our understanding that prayer, once this inner peace is achieved, is more powerful than you can understand, not necessarily in healing the immediate circumstances, but in emphasizing and expressing to the world your desire and intention to provide healing, to witness healing, to allow the Creator to move through you so that it can be recognized by those about you. This reiteration of your intention can then also serve to broaden the pathways of inspiration available to you in moments of need when you are called to serve. If you have established this pathway of prayer within you, then those same pathways can be used to discover the truth and the healing that wish to be expressed in that moment in more essential and vital ways, allowing you to be more effective upon your own path of service to others. These practices are, in our opinion, essential to the question that you pose to us. It is your best tool available to you to examine your inner world and to find the circumstances inside that self that bring about peace, so that this peace can then be manifest outside of the self. For there is no other way that the outer peace can be achieved without first inner peace being discovered by you and by your other selves. Is there another query to which we may respond?
Okay, yes, but we'll review this. Yeah, and this is along the lines of what we were just discussing. So, who would like to comment on this?
It reminds me of from weeks or months ago when we were talking about judgment. We looked at the difference between judgment and discernment or something. And I had this like realization that all thoughts are judgment unless they're processed. And that kind of hints at like that's kind of why you should build that meditative state so that you can process those thoughts right away rather than letting them be judgment.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to comment? Or here, I can read the.
Well, I was just going to say about
Okay,
how,
go ahead.
like, it's once again, it's talking in a very similar way to lots of other kind of systems about building your mental palace, your meditation thought palace thing. It's a big thing in the whole what do they call it, silver method. Where you build your little workshop to kind of make machinery to fix things into your subconscious. And we know that's what Carla kind of used, so it's understandable that they'd suggest that kind of approach. Weirdly, the first time I ever heard about that was building my rune palace when I was learning how to do runes many years ago. Anyway, interesting.
Okay, cool. So here are the key quotes that ChatGPT picked out. To sit down and to turn inward and to seek the peace within yourself, discovered within the silence of the self, is more important in such circumstances than in any other kind of circumstance. Basically, so guarding the inner sanctuary, Okay. Oh yeah. Building the inner sanctuary. The continual returning to this place allows you to fortify its foundation, to strengthen its walls, to shine and clean its windows, and to sanctify it and make it a truly holy place. So basically, meditate and meditate regularly. Prayer. Once this inner peace is achieved, is more powerful than you can understand, emphasizing and expressing to the world your desire and intention to provide healing. Yeah, for sure. I know sometimes I've meditated, next to, people who were squabbling. And then just as I'm sitting there and meditating and like processing, clearing myself, and then they stop squabbling and then they would like turn to me. It's like, wow, what did you do? That really worked. So anyways, it
I have
is
to
amazing.
say, I did something very similar. I used to have a guy I used to work for, and he was a bit of a dick, and he used to have big rows, and he used to have rows his missus all the time. One time I was sitting there, and I just used to meditate, just turn off. He could do what he likes, and I just brought up a big ball of love, and I just beam it out, boom, just fill the whole place up with love. And I'm not gonna lie, more often than not, they did stop rowing pretty straight up after. So. Yeah, I'm going to say that just beaming love out there relentlessly, non-stop, does seem to affect people as a thing.
Yeah, for sure. Prayer, once this inner peace is achieved, is more powerful. Okay, for processing outer challenges. For the seeker on the path of service to others, the appropriate response to such circumstances is to serve. But you will always find yourself alone again, needing to process and grapple with these circumstances. After witnessing fear or anger in others, return to your inner sanctuary to reflect and pray. Use this time to recharge and reconnect with your purpose. Expanding pathways of inspiration. This reiteration of your intention can then also serve to broaden the pathways of inspiration available to you in moments of need. Let your prayer and meditation cultivate new insights. And peace starts within. There's no way other than the outer peace can be achieved without first inner peace being discovered by you and other selves. I think this is such an important point that many, many people don't seem to understand, because they're always like, oh, we're going to have peace once we do enough violence for those people to stop doing violence or something like this, to fully subjugate Russia or whatever. But that's not how you achieve peace. You achieve peace by starting peace within yourself and then propagating that peace outwards, helping other people have that peace. And then once you have a bunch of peaceful people, then they can spread that peace, and then you can, have a world at peace. That's how it works. The path to peace becomes more and more available to you no matter your outer circumstances. All right. Any other comments here?
I had a little bit of a different take on some. It's just me, but maybe somebody else thought this too. So the formula kind of seems to be the most important thing is to find peace within yourself. Then that way it builds a sanctum within the self of peace that you can rely on when you're experiencing catalyst, so that you can handle it calmly and logically. Any psychologist will tell you, taking you out of fight or flight mode, so that you can actually think properly and handle the situation correctly. And then that way you're, spreading your light. So that tells me, and I think they said this a certain way. They didn't say it this way, but I'm paraphrasing here, where the peace that you find within yourself is kind of the foundation for the results of your catalyst that you experience. In other words, the reason you're able to handle things correctly is because you've prepared yourself through finding your own inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me, if that's true, then that also tells me the flip side of that coin is all of the hard work that I'm doing and have been doing for X number of time is preparing me for a shit show. Great. I'm tired, man.
You mean the stuff
Dude,
that...
what made you think it was any different ever? This has always been training for war, my friend. It's just training to be soldiers of love.
That's that's a double-edged sword. That's wonderful. That's great. That sounds awesome. But man,
it's hard work. Finding your inner
Welcome
peace.
to Lucy Land, dude.
Yeah. Well, it's worth it. Inner peace is worth it. So many people, like, they spend so much money going to like retreats and vacations and stuff like that because they want to find peace. And it's like, you can't find peace out there somewhere. It's in you. And you have to do the hard work of doing the meditation to get there.
And I think the thing about the
the Confederation,
when you kind of, once you get to that inner peace place and you are sitting there,
And then
having your little mind palace is a really good thing to do in meditation. When he's talking about making it, sanctifying it, making it holy, that whole rune castle kind of idea it's a great idea that you build the thing up from elements, and you take it step by step, actually kind of building this thing with the what's it called, the silver technique. He calls it more of a laboratory. So you've got like a lab and you build a piece of equipment. So, for example, like Fred was talking about the catalyst you're going through at the time, you might need to build an emotional regulation machine or whatever. So you'd build an emotional regulation machine in your laboratory so that when you go back into the conscious world, your subconscious has got this machine to help you regulate emotional whatever, right? So that being the idea that you can kind of have a functional part of the subconscious to use from that meditation space. And it's a really powerful idea. And, it's what leads to the whole room where you do the channeling and all the other stuff that Carla used. And, the door to her room where she met Ra is off of that laboratory.
Bill.
The Confederation is actually quite helpful on this. And if you really believe in their philosophy, we do have the foundation of faith and how they define faith. Like was mentioned in the first question that was answered, that being all is well, all will be well. And if you could really get that into your mind, into your being, then that should lead to all the peace you'll ever need. Because if you really have faith in the Creator, the universe, the unity, the law of one, then you will believe all is well, all will be well. So there's nothing to be really upset about. I mean, sure. I mean, and if shit comes your way during the day and it pisses you off, they give us the techniques to handle that, to deal with that catalyst, and then just love and accept it, deal with your emotions, and get over it, and go back to the foundation of this philosophy. Because all is well, all will be well. How can it not be when the Creator is there, and all you guys are the Creator? Everything's the Creator. And there's this foundation of love. So what else do you want?
It's true. It's true. Mm-hmm. So, here, Bill, do you want to read the next one? Here, I'll read the question. Yes, as I understand it,
are you hearing me without?
Oh, yes, I heard you. Yes, that was a good response, Bill. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello? Am I breaking up when I'm speaking to you?
No, you're not breaking up. Am I? Are we?
Okay.
No. Yeah. That
I mean,
that was.
You're good,
I
Bill.
agreed with
I'll
everything you
read
said.
it if I'm not breaking up.
Okay. Yeah, you're not breaking up. Just give Dan a
Okay.
rest. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Yes, as I understand it, there is, in this polarized existence, there is the tool of fear or the use of love. And if these are the functions of the separate paths, is there ever instances where fear is justified or has a purpose or benefit to the path of love or light?
I'm Kuo, and I'm aware of the query, my sister. We are finding this instrument struggling to maintain contact and perhaps doubting the ability to channel a response to a further query. And as such, we would, instead of responding to this query, take our leave of this instrument and transfer this contact to the one known as Gary. And the question then may be restated for us through that instrument. So we take leave of this instrument and transfer. Okay.
Okay. I will rephrase the one from earlier. Is there ever a benefit or purpose that fear or concern or worry has for those path seekers of the love and light? And if so, in what cases does this emotion serve?
We are those of Kuo and have received your query, our sister. And indeed, there is no aspect of the creator or moment within the self's journey that, if orientated or reorientated to, may not offer the seeker a benefit of the one type or another, depending, that is, on how the seeker makes use of the emotion or the experience, whether they seek to run away from or run toward it, whether they seek to make an identity of this experience or create a story around it, which does not help to reveal the heart and essence of the experience to the seeker. In the specific case of fear, as with any catalyst, it may be a benefit to the seeker in terms of revealing the limitations of the vision and the limitations upon the realization of the self as the unlimited, infinite, eternal creator. For example, where there is fear, the self may readily expect that there is identification with the body and the separate self to one degree or another. This is not in any way to indicate that fear is a signal of a mistake or evolution. Can you move the screen up?
Of evolution. Mm-hmm.
Can you move the screen up?
Is it not? You can't see it.
I'm cut off.
Oh, you're cut off. That's so strange.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Let's try it again. Can you see it now?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
This is not in any way to indicate that fear is a signal of a mistake or a lack of evolution or the wrong answer upon the quiz, for this is a natural function and byproduct, and it is universal across the universe in the veiled condition. For in that condition, you are seemingly cut off from the source of life, from your greater identity in that metaphysical darkness wherein there is much to fear, because nearly everything is unknown. Intentions of others cannot be fully discerned or maybe even trusted. The outcome on its way to the self, or the experience around the next corner, or the very next step on the journey can be predicted and assumed, but never ultimately truly known. An unhappy fate may be lurking just around the corner for the self. Any number of dreams and scenarios within the mind can manufacture something that precipitates the experience of fear within the self and its corresponding psychological and physiological elements that have various effects upon the self, fundamental to which is, depending on the consumption and indulgence and identification with the fear, being cut off, being alone, feeling one's power reduced or eliminated, and being also susceptible to manipulation by external sources or to the self. Fear also, of course, obscures the vision and distorts the unity of all things into a place that is threatening and needs defended from. This fear, to reconnect to your question, may serve for its evolutionary purposes as a signal that there is something amiss, that there is indeed a threat or danger or something to pay attention to in the environment, that something needs investigating within the self. Whatever its proximate cause or catalyst, that which triggers the fear becomes of use when the self brings mindfulness and awareness to the fear and allows the experience to be not only within the self, but within the container of one's own awareness. For fear is a very powerful and strong phenomenon, as you, our friends, know, and is quick to claim hold of the self's attention and energy and vision and take the self for a ride, shall we say. So it is imperative to love the self who is having this experience of the fear and to apply one's intention and attention to the experience in the exercise of the faculties, the will and faith that allows one to pierce through the darkness, however convincing the evidence it marshals forth, however sticky are its tentacles, so that the self may, through trust, see and feel and understand that all is well, and assess the situation or the choice more clearly. Perhaps there is genuine risk to the self or danger up ahead, but the self has chosen to recognize that. Yes, there is indeed fear within, which is alerting me and responding to this experience, anticipated or imagined or actual, but I will choose, not based upon this fear, where to place my feet. I will choose, not knowing the outcome and not knowing whether my choice will pan out in the desired direction of travel, but trusting that all is well, that I cannot make a mistake. Ultimately, that my catalyst and my lessons will greet me in whichever direction I go. One can then align themselves more openly and clearly to the flow of energy and destiny through the self. One can hear the intuition more surely and the guidance more clearly. One can open themselves to the support that is available all around. And one can leave behind or step out of the small corner in the mind into which the fear would have pushed the self, so that the self can outstretch the figurative arms and breathe in freely under the big open sky, which is the infinite within you, always, whatever the outer circumstances. And one can greet the moment with praise and thanksgiving, rejoicing in the power and the beauty of the one, however difficult the seeming outer circumstances.
All right. Thank you, Bill. So, anyone would like to comment on that?
So what was the question?
Would you like to
Something about
comment
fear.
on what we just read? Yes. Bill, would you like to summarize for us?
I mean, yeah, I mean, fear is it's a good experience to go through, and sometimes there's genuine fear, like, you come around the corner, like I've done like a couple times in my life. You're in the mountains, you come around the corner and you see a mama bear with a couple bear cubs. That's like, okay, that gives you apprehension and puts you into the awareness of the moment, and that you kind of need to back out of. And so fear can also give you exactly that ability to be in the moment. And if you're thinking clearly, you can start assessing and seeing what your answers and alternatives are to figuring out what to do about the fear. And if you're logical and rational, you can pretty much figure out something to overcome your fear. But then ultimately, fear is really not part of the universe. I mean, it's an experience, but it's the creator is not fear. It's at our core being, our foundation, our beingness of love and being unified and all. There is no fear in that being.
If I can
and like
add to that.
And like it says, if you're really going into that, then you kind of just stop. And a lot of times fear can be overcome with exactly what they say by going into praising and thanksgiving. You start to be grateful for the moment. As I get more on this journey, when I get into a fearful situation or my mind goes off or weird shit happens that I don't like, I'm actually slowing down and going, thank you for this moment. Thank you for that catalyst. Thank you for, my girl who left me. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but it's something that I need to go through apparently, because there is no right or wrong. There's just what we do with the catalyst, and then the biggest thing, and Ra said it, and some of it is it's like what the purpose, our purpose is, we come in here, we're in the incarnation, we have our desires, but we also, our purpose is to accept every kind of catalyst that comes our way. And that includes the fear. And so once you start to accept what's going on, then you can start becoming more and more in the present moment, the eternal now, as some people call it, because that's all there is, because there is no past, there's memory, and there is no future, because the future, a lot of people live in fear because of the future, but in reality, there is no future, because a future is a construct that they kind of started making up in the 1600s. In the old days, they used to look at things as looking into the future as something like providence, or what good things are going to come my way. But when you're projecting out in the future, it never happens, because as soon as you get to the spot where it is, it's the present moment. It's the now. There's only the now. So we're getting out of meditation, reflecting. You do have healthy respect for reality. You don't go and walk in the middle of the road or play on the freeway, or if you're skydiving, or climbing scaling cliffs and stuff like that. A lot of those people, they have I don't know what you can call it, fear, but it puts them into the awareness and having a good, healthy respect for that moment. And but in reality, there is nothing to fear, because faith, all is well, all will be well. And that's a great lesson for us to learn in these incarnations. And it is a great thing to actually experience fear, to get your heart racing, to get, amped up, something's chasing you. You ever run through a neighborhood or a back,
Yes.
have a pit bull jump the fence.
All right. Yeah. Dan wanted to add something. Go ahead.
I kind of forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Bill said it all, so I agree with everything.
Bill said it all. Okay, cool. All right.
I would like to point something out, Andrii. See, Dan, this is why I write notes while they're reading. So the one thing was, and I think sometimes this is like a snap fear that happens sometimes, that they pointed out. It says it may indicate the realization with the connection of your physical body, because we're in spirit. Most of us is in spirit. There's only a portion of us that's here in this physical human body. So when we're, and I think this will happen just like when you're coming out of meditation, when you're in La La Land and you come out of your meditation and you go, oh shit, the oven's beeping, and you try to stand up.
And your legs are asleep.
It doesn't work so well. That's kind of, that shock of getting back into it kind of sometimes puts, strike, it runs fear through you, that shock response, like something just happened. But also, they made a specific point, and I think this points to the flip side of the coin with fear, where it depends on your consumption, indulgence, and identification with the fear. So if you're not doing what we were talking about before with it, like finding a peace within yourself, that fear, when you do that, you are able to analyze your consumption and if you're indulging in the fear, if you're ruminating on something, and your identification with the fear. If you're identifying with it negatively, that's where you're going to get, I'm afraid of the future, I'm afraid of something that's going to happen, blah, 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 whatever. But if you're integrating it positively, it's going to be more like excitement than fear. It's the same feelings, because fear is an emotion. Fear isn't a feeling. Heart racing is a feeling. Cold sweat is a feeling. Those are associated with the emotion of fear. So the flip side of fear being excitement, you get the same feelings. So if you're able to analyze by having your inner peace and being able to think logically and like, how am I consuming this? Am I indulging in it? And how do I identify with this fear? If you did those three things, they listed it right in there. So if you did that, you would be able to transform pretty much any fear into an excitement because of an opportunity to learn a lesson because of a catalyst.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I was just going to add that the amygdala considers that whenever you are, like, say, hyperventilating and doing the things that are associated with fear, that actually is more likely to trigger your amygdala to be like, oh, there's something to be afraid of. So when you do a meditation and you or if you deliberately slow down your breathing, then that will actually tell your amygdala that everything is fine, and your fear response will be lowered, and you'll be able to use your rational mind again. Go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to say one thing that I thought from reading this, this little part stuck with me. I think somewhere throughout it they said to like verbalize it or make known what it is that you're feeling. And I think that's a really important aspect if you are in the moment and feeling something, like to verbalize what it is you're feeling or thinking about, and then you can kind of take action from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. I know Vipassana, it's also about exactly that. Just noting your feelings, being the observer of them. All right, so I'm just going to quickly look over the key quotes here. Fear may serve revealing limitations of the vision upon realizing of the self as the unlimited, infinite, eternal creator. So instead of resisting fear, view it as a signal highlighting areas where the self-perception or spiritual understanding may need expansion. Fear is a natural function and byproduct, universal across the universe in veiled condition where nearly everything is unknown. Reflect on the root of your fear. It is tied to the illusion of separation or the unknown. Recognize its role as a universal human experience. Fear becomes, but the Confederation says it's everywhere where there's a veil, so all third densities. Fear becomes of use when the self brings mindfulness and awareness to the fear and allows the experience to be within the container of one's own awareness. When fear arises, pause to acknowledge and observe it without judgment. That's exactly the Vipassana thing. This awareness can prevent fear from overwhelming your thoughts and actions. It's like taking a deep, slow breath. Choosing beyond fear. Yes, there is indeed fear within, but I will choose, not based upon this fear, but where to place my feet. Make the decision not from a place of fear, but from a place of trust and alignment with your higher self. Act with faith that all is well, even if outcomes are uncertain. Loving the self experiencing fear. It is an imperative to love the self who's having the experience of fear. Yeah, you shouldn't be beating yourself up or anything. Practice self compassion. Recognize the feeling fear as part of the journey. Treat yourself with kindness and patience during these moments, like a little baby, or child. Through trust, see and feel the understanding that all is well. Align more openly to the flow of energy and destiny. Trust in the Creator's plan, and use fear as an opportunity to deepen your faith, reaffirming your connection with the infinite. Pause and reflect, shift perspective, anchor in faith, open to guidance, and practice gratitude each day. So it is imperative to love the self who is having the experience of fear and apply one's intention and attention to the experience to pierce through the darkness, however convincing the evidence it marshals forth. Wow, that's nice. Okay, Bill has his hand up. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I was going to add one thing that's a little off, but with like second density creatures on kind of like a planet like this, fear actually, I think, helps them to come into self-awareness, because you're being chased by something or hunted or in a conflict. You're becoming more self-aware, and so it's kind of actually helping. I think fear, in a way, actually helps with the evolutionary process, the spiritual evolutionary process, to bring you into more awareness. And it even works with us, because when we're dealing with fear and we can focus, we can become more self-aware and more focused on that fear. And so I think it's part of the process.
Well, that's interesting, and quite possibly accurate. And I know that the Confederation and Ra has mentioned that it's like, at least maybe on the service to others path, it is love that brings pets to third density. Being wild animals, with the chasing and stuff, doesn't seem to add a whole lot to it. They're still they're just kind of following the instinct. But when they are loved by a human, then they feel themselves as distinct and separate from the environment. And so that's what brings them to self-consciousness. All right. So
you mean self-awareness?
Self-awareness, yes.
Yeah.
Also, can I say that to make total sense when you look at us ourselves, yeah? We go through things in our life, yeah, and we have to learn to get over with traumas, blah, 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 blah. But in order to really get started on this process, you've got to balance your root chakra, right? And the first thing you need for that is to feel safe. Is to get rid of all that fear. It's to dump all that. Just relax into the energy of the universe. Have faith, trust. And as soon as you do that, that's when everything starts happening. So I agree with Bill, what Bill was saying. Second density is all about fear. Yeah, faith, perfect, actually. That's exactly it. Yeah, you've got through second density, it's just prey predator cycles. It's kind of learning how to outwit and how to become more and more advanced and more able as an entity. Until you get to the point where you're loved by an entity rather than hunted. And then that gives you that ability to kind of drop fear the same way we have to then step up.
Mm.
And that's the same kind of with us, right? We have to drop the fear to step up the same way the pets do to get up to the next level. We have to do the same thing. You could argue that humans have been pretty prey predatory to one another, just to get here.
Yeah. I know.
I just wanted to point out what Ashley said. And hi, Ashley, by the way. She said faith over fear. And that's kind of the whole summary of that process that they delineated in there, where you're having faith that all is well because you've found that peace within yourself. You're able to go through the process of understanding what the fear is, and you neutralize it by being grateful and thankful and turn that into excitement. So you've used faith to completely conquer the fear and switch it. You've flipped it. That's exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And to what Ed was saying, where it's the love that is the pivotal moment. I know, like, from many of the testimonies of people who used to be like gangsters or Satanists or whatever, that for them the tipping point was when they learned that Jesus loves them. You know, like they were like they had never experienced love before in their whole life, and the fact that, you know, Jesus loves them was just like a totally transforming experience. And so they're like, hey, someone loves me, you know, so I'm going to stop being Hell's Angels or Satanist, and I'm going to, you know, become a Christian because you know what? Love is better. Love over fear.
So we're all Jesus's pets.
Basically, yeah, kind of like that. That's a good way of putting it.
To
Or
be
is
fair,
this
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
You know, I bet he's really lovely to his pets.
Yeah. So Ashley, did you want to add anything to this topic before we go to the next one?
No, everyone's been spot on with the wisdom in the
Great.
passage.
Thanks. All right. So now there's a new line of inquiry. I pass along this question: in religious studies, there are different ways to read and understand spiritual texts, such as through the process of hermeneutics. Students of the Confederation material tend to take literal interpretation of the text, where we study and discuss the material, but considering other ways to study and interpret spiritual texts can be helpful for understanding the material on other levels. Can you speak about the process of interpreting Confederation material, particularly ways that we can consider it other than literal interpretation? Who wants to read?
I can read.
You want to read? Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
Okay. We are those of Quo, and we thank you, our sister, for the opportunity to speak and our orientation to our own mission and the service which we wish to offer, that we may have the opportunity to clarify that indeed everything which we say and have said is literal and to be understood literally by all seekers of our words, which is our hope for this message. We clarify that we were not being literal in this case, only in joking, as you would say, or being non-serious, for we have our information to share, report to make, and story to tell, but we would not wish that any seeker feel compelled or obligated or in any way persuaded to take each syllable that we would speak or meaning that we would make necessarily literally for our own recourse. In these circumstances of our attempts to be of service, I lost my place. Thank you. Is to use these approximations for reality, which we have called the sound vibration complex, the communicated word, which of themselves are not the reality, nor do they capture the reality to which they point, or rather can only point, as the proverb speaks of the finger which points to the moon. So, in a sense, taking the words and their syntax and their intended meaning to be ultimate or final or literal to the exactness of what it purports to be saying can also be to create an opacity to the one creator, which ultimately can only, through the indigo ray, be known by the unknowing. This isn't to say that our message has no meaning or that we intended to speak falsely of that which we know, that which we have experienced, for our hope is to offer illumination and clarity about the nature of the journey and of the possibilities of healing and transformation and of the universe, about you and its densities and the way it came into being in the great sweep of creation. We never intend to speak falsely. and it is helpful for the seeker or a group of seekers to attempt to parse out what is being said or has been said, to understand what is the meaning in the words or in between the words, and how does it apply to oneself in the journey? Does it make sense for the self? Does it match one's understanding? Does it elevate that understanding, challenge that understanding, or seem to regress that understanding? It is for the seeker to determine how literal to take any of our own words. It can at times do a potential disservice to the seeker to read words for their face value and not recognize the underlying melody of meaning, or that which we seek to be evocative of, an ambience of deeper meaning and truth. But again, we clarify that when we speak of events, historical or otherwise, and processes and characters upon the stage, we never intend to speak falsely or less than clearly, or in a way which would confuse the seeker, or masquerade a seemingly actual or factual story or piece of information as that which is factual, without clarifying its metaphorical nature, if it were indeed of that nature. And in closing our response to this question, we would remind those who read our words that the nature of conscious channeling is such that the transmission we send necessarily streams through an instrument who must translate it for us according to their reception, understanding of that which, in broadband, shall we say, we send. The conscious instrument is bringing to bear their own gifts and their own limitations, their own experience, their own biases, etc. This helps our message to manifest into your reality through the ground of earth, so to speak, clothed in the ways of being human. But it may also add inadvertent and unintentional distortion to our message. It is not always perfect, shall we say, representation of that which we send, which is not to say that it is of no value. We may liken it to the light that is passed through the stained glass window, whereby that light is necessarily and unavoidably colored, taking the characteristics of the particular pane of glass it passes through, so that which was white light becomes red and blue and so forth, myriad patterns giving a different form, vector, and color to that light with the hope that it may be received to illuminate and support and guide the seeking heart as they wish to use this particular ray or rays of light and interpret it as they will. We thank you, our sister, for these incisive questions, and at this time transfer our contact to the one known as Austin.
All right. Thank you. So, anyone have any comments on that one?
I think that's pretty... Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think it's pretty straightforward. No mystery there that their words, although they speak with the intent to get the concepts and lessons out as clearly as possible, may be colored by the instrument that they're coming through, and that's a natural part of conscious channeling, so it's to be expected, but also that it's dependent upon the seeker to relate to the material in their own way. They may intend to speak literally, but for some individuals, maybe seeing the symbolism in the words rather than seeing them literally will yield more growth. So for them, they can do that. So it depends on the individual to some extent. But they do say that they usually speak in very literal terms, and if they speak metaphorically, they'll let you know that this is a symbolism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just wanted to add here, the hermeneutics explores how meaning is constructed, understood, and conveyed, often emphasizing the importance of context, historical background, and the intention of the author. It is a theory and methodology of interpretation, especially scriptural texts. And I mean, that's basically like reading things in context. And I think that, yeah, when you're reading Confederation material, often they provide pretty good context, but it's always good to keep that in mind, because I mean, like, I know some people could take like sound bites and
like when you go
try
to
say
church,
something. Yeah,
the preacher's just talking about one verse. You got to like, all right, where's the context? You can't just pull verse from verse and make a speech out of it and make
right.
it your own.
Exactly. I find it's much harder to do. The Confederation is much more clear with the things that they say, and it's. But I mean, conceivably, maybe someone would be able to take some things out of context and make it sound like.
I think really the whole question is a bit kind of flawed, really, considering that every single channeling they start off saying the same thing. That they're going to give you the information how it comes. Yeah, you take it or leave it how you see it. Yeah, it goes down to you how you interact with that information, whether it resonates, whether you pick it up, whether you take it. You know, like realistically, the way that it's written, especially raw material, more so than Quo, like there's 4 ways of reading some of the answers. You know, all of them are right. You know, it's like fractal answering. You know what I mean? So then, like, you can't read it literally because there's 4 ways to literally read it. And the more you learn, you can come back and add more interpretations. The more you learn, because Ra's that good. Quo is more poetic, I find. He's much more like he likes to make things pretty, to give us much more kind of depth.
Like general advice too, I feel.
That's
like
it. Filling in
they're
all the
careful
gaps.
with their words.
Yeah.
Try to keep it basic.
That's it. Ra doesn't have as much time, so he gets it down like super dense, pick it apart word by word kind of thing. Whereas Quo could take a bit more time. You know, it kind of that allows it to be that bit more open and fill in the gaps a bit more and kind of give you more context and more visualization ideas, you know. So yeah, sorry, I'm gonna jump in, dude.
I think they were also kind of talking about like the words that they choose to use during channeling. How like if you were to like have it from like Ra's point of view, he uses a lot of old English words and they may mean something completely different than they do in this day and age. So it's like take what resonates, but also like look into the words that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What was that amazing word he used for how full space is? Do you want to remember it?
What?
Ra used a word for how full space is. Like, you know, we said that we think it's all empty. And he's like, we can't understand just how dense. And then there was a word. And none of us were like, what the hell does that mean? And then we, like, afterwards, and it basically means that it basically just describes 0 point energy, that, like, all the energy of the universe is contained in a single point. Like, it's
what's the word?
I can't remember it. I wish I could because it's such a cool word.
Plenum or
maybe
something
Ashley
like that?
remembers. I don't know.
Huh?
Is it plenum? I think plenum means something different. But
that might be the word. That might be the word. That sounds very similar. Something like that.
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Plenum universe. Maybe that might be it, Adam, dude. That might be it. It's something like that. But because I remember Trev went mad about it when he found out what it meant. He was like, "What? Whoa!"
All right. Well, we'll check on the key quotes here, see if that triggers anything else. So the communicated word of themselves are not the reality, nor do they capture the reality to which they point, or rather can only point, as the proverb speaks of the finger which points to the moon. So taking the words and their syntax to be ultimate or final can create an opacity to the one creator which can only through the indigo ray be known by the unknowing. That's interesting. Okay, so I just wanted to give the context for anyone viewing this on YouTube that the finger which points to the moon, it's like people that talk about God, they're not saying that the word God, they're saying, you know, you have to have the experience of God. You know, it's not the word meditation, but the experience of meditation. That is important. And then over here, the indigo ray. So that is your third eye. And so you have to take the words in their syntax and then do the meditation to access the indigo ray. Indigo ray is the intelligent infinity. Intelligent infinity is kind of like a portion of God. And from there, you can get the deeper melody or ambience or meaning in the teaching. Okay. It is helpful for the seeker to attempt to parse out what is being said or has been said, and how does it apply to oneself and the journey. Certainly. So yeah, engage with it. What resonates? What challenges? And how can it deepen my spiritual practice?
William Grove. Yes, and what Nixon said about William Grove.
Oh, Dan, it's we can still hear you. Okay. The conscious instrument is bringing to bear their own gifts and their own limitations, which add inadvertent distortion to our message. Yes. So while valuable, yeah, it has some biases. We never intend to speak falsely. Okay, but, they make mistakes. Ra makes mistakes too. We may liken it to the light that is passed through a stained glass window, taking on the characteristics of the particular pane of glass. Very good. Very good. Okay. Combine literal and metaphorical, meditative reflection. Engage in dialogue, discussing it with your peers, like we're doing here. Trust in your inner guidance and balance open-mindedness with discernment. Key quote: it can at times do a potential disservice to the seeker to read words for their face value and not recognize the underlying melody of meaning, or that which we seek to be evocative of, an ambience of deeper meaning and truth. Yeah, so people could be like, well, they said that we should be nice to this person and that person, and like a whole long list, but they didn't say we should be nice to this particular person. That's one way that people could like take it wrong way by not adhering to the spirit of it. Here, where are we? We got 5 minutes left. Okay, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to read a new? Okay.
Ashley said, is the word vacuous that Ed was talking about?
No, I think it was that word that Adam said. That begins with a P.
Oh.
I can't remember. I wish I could remember. You know me, dyslexic as fuck. I can't remember words at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably plenum.
Meaning full, completely filled or occupied with matter or energy. Completely filled with matter, as opposed to vacuum, which is...
That's exactly the word then. 100%. Okay. Go you, Adam, man. That's awesome brain.
Yeah. Great.
Well, I learned another new word tonight at the first.
For a long time.
What was that, Adam? Something for a long time?
Just that word's been at the top of my mind for a while.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Fred, what was that?
At the very first question from tonight, panoply of energies. They were talking about a panoply of energies. I'd never heard that word before.
Do you want to know what it means?
Well, I would imagine
think it means a lot.
Huh?
I think it means a lot. What about panoply? Panoply is a word with rich connotations, and its meaning depends on the context in which it is used. Original and literal meaning, the Greek word panoplia, means a complete suit of armor, a full armor worn by a soldier. Modern usage, complete or impressive array, extensive, impressive, or complete collection. Magnificent display, a grand splendor display. Metaphorical, figurative. Okay, see it. Let's see where they used panoply.
They're probably meaning a full array of energies when they said it.
Yes. And
or many energies.
The word panoply is being used to describe diverse and multifaceted range of energies and vibrations. There you go. Yeah, that's what I thought. Panoply is like many. That's how I would translate it.
Yeah.
Diverse array of energies. That's what it says.
And in legal circles, they always use the word plenary, and plenary means complete, total. So there's like plenary powers. You look that up. That'll be in government and legal stuff. So that's part of plenum too. But it kind of means just complete.
Yes, full or complete. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Entire, complete, or absolute. Yeah. So it's like a fancy word to say Done. All right. So, okay.
I guess the Confederation
last
has
minute.
downloaded our dictionaries and thesauruses and stuff like that.
Mhm. All right. Any last things people want to mention or discuss before I close the live stream? Or messages? No?
Only Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yes, yes. We wish you all good joy and peace, love, and kindness. All right. So, with that, as we found you, we leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the infinite power and the infinite peace of the one infinite Creator, the one within you that you can reach at any time with meditation. My friends, Adonai Vasbaragas. And all right, the live